Well, hello to everyone who's here. Let's just go ahead and get started. Welcome to Kagelore Q&A 2.0. This is um this is basically a continuation slash repeat of my panel last year, with some updates from what I learned since then. Thank you to those that are here or have been here last year. I really appreciate it. And just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm Yumes. I'm just a dude who's really liked Kagepro for a very long time. I'm co-founder of the Kagepros server, which is just a community-run or just community fan community Kagepro server that you're free to join. And I really like Shintaro. I like to play video games. I like to draw, and I write sometimes. I also write for the Kagepro wiki when I can. So if you've ever read any of the character pages recently, then most likely you've read my writing. Yeah, thank you for those who are here. Anyway, so warning for this panel, there's going to be some major spoilers for Kagepro, including from the light novels, the manga, and the anime. Just be warned, I will not be holding any punches in terms of just the details of the spoilers. There will also be talk of violent deaths and including suicide. All right. So before we get into just how Kagepro, before we just get into any of the roots, we just gotta first talk about the actual roots, and also there's here's the question form. So if you have any questions about Kagepro's lore slash meta, feel free to go ahead and submit them to this form right here. There's going to be a QR code to be able to scan at any time, and I am posting the link now in I'm now posting the link in the chats in both Discord and Twitch. But yeah, if you just have any questions, submit them here. All right, and to go into Kagepro, so as we know, Kagepro has a bunch of timelines, and I will call them roots because that is how they're referred to in the Wikipedia. And these roots do have a chronological order to them. So, so of the roots that we know so far, or that we know of, there are five major roots, and this is the order that they take place according to official guides and from just observation. The very first route that takes place is manga route 2, which is the second route depicted in the manga, and that will be from chapters 19 to 69. Um, then the next route that takes place chronologically is the music route, which is the route that's shown through most of the songs and PVs. I say most of them because not all of them are pertaining to the music route, specifically Children Record and Outer Science does. Children Record and Summertime Record and Otsukimi Recital, they don't fit in with the music route because canonically the music route ends with the route XX, which is a specific type of route that goes with Shintaro and Ene and how they meet their ends. It's a very specific type of route, and that's what the music route is. No, the next route that takes place chronologically is the manga route, route 1, which is the first route shown in the manga, then the novel route, and then the anime route, which is the very last route, aka Mecha City Actors. So these are just the five main routes shown to us. There are a lot more of them, and there are some shown in other medias, including the Kagero Days in the Days movie, and the last two chapters of the manga. There are also audiobooks in some of the albums that are implied to be parts of other routes as well. So there are just an possibly an infinite number of routes out there, up to the thousands. It's just these are the ones that we mainly focus on. Anyway, so I'm going to explain what happens in almost every single route, except Manga Route 2. Manga Route 2 is just very different from all the other routes. And if I want to explain what happened there, it basically would require its own panel. But let's just explain how every other route goes. So every route begins with darkness, and then eventually a pair of red eyes. And eventually, they just sort of sit here for a while, and then this pair of red eyes forms a wish. And when it forms a wish, the world basically begins to form around it. And eventually, this pair of red eyes gets up and gets a body, and it becomes this, which we know as Azami. I'm going to call her Azami because it makes it easy. She's named that later, but this is also Azami the Medusa. She's called the Medusa of the legends because she, as we know, Medusas are, she has snakes in her hair, and she's also able to turn people into stone. But anyway, Azami. So she, as said before, she has snakes in her hair, and these snakes are very special because these snakes are essentially the manifestation of her own wishes. And in response to her wishes, these snakes each have a set of powers that they can basically fulfill, or basically these powers are to fulfill her wishes. Um, and Azami ends up having 10 snakes in total, and each snake has its own set of powers, basically. So basically, these 10 snakes have been identified, and this is basically the order in which she has used them slash has become aware of them. I think last year I said that like this was the order snakes are made, but upon reading a bit more, it seems like the snakes have always been with Azami from the start. It's just that she only really learned about them as she was using them. So and it appears that all snakes in the beginning were with the first one, which is the snake of combining eyes, the queen snake. This is Azami's most important snake, and what it does is it combines the powers of all the other snakes to do its primary power. And the snake of combining eyes power is basically to it has world building, altering, and destroying abilities. So the purpose of the snake of combining eyes is to create a place where Azami can fulfill her wishes. Because back in the beginning, when it was just darkness, that was it. The world didn't exist yet. So snake combining eyes is there to create a world for her. And so when Azami made her very first wish, Snake of Combining Eyes basically got into motion and started creating this world for her. And her very first wish was to understand herself, to understand what she is. And when she had that wish, that brought forth the Snake of Clearing Eyes. Next, she needed a physical body to walk around in, so she created the Snake of Waking Eyes, which created a physical body for her. Then she wanted to have a little conversation with the snake, so the Snake of Stealing Eyes came forth, which allowed her to read thoughts of her target, and so she was able to understand what the heck the snake was trying to say to her. And then she went off to the real world where she met humans and they started persecuting her because she was this little lady with powers. And so she started creating all or brought forth all of her other snakes, mainly as a way to like hide herself or to defend herself against from these humans. And the very last snake that Azumi becomes aware of is the snake of favoring eyes. And again, I say aware of because it's quite possible that she had the snake like way beforehand. It's just she never really realized that she had the snake until way later. Because one day Azami she decided that she had enough of humans, so she decided to go to quote unquote the most isolated place in the world, and so she went to this like island in the middle of nowhere, and it didn't really work because she ended up meeting Tsukihiko, a human who offered to build her a house, and after asked him to marry her, and she agreed, and they had a beautiful daughter named Shion. And for a while, Azami lived rather happily with these two in their new home. But eventually, Azami had this realization. Oh wait, let me go before. Let me just go back a bit. So, this last snake, Snake of Favoring Eyes, Azami's last snake, she did eventually realize that it existed when she wanted to have the wish. She basically had the wish to for her daughter Shion to understand just how much she loves her, and that's when she got the last snake. Um, anyway, so she lived with her family for a little while, and then she realized soon that something terrible was going to happen. She realized that Tsukihiko, her husband, and Shion, her daughter, were going to die because Azami simply she didn't age and she cannot die. So no matter what, she was going to outlive her family, and that thought terrified her. And so she began wishing in her heart, like with all of her heart, please, I need to find a way to be with my family forever. And someone heard her. That was the Snake of Clearing Eyes. The Snake of Clearing Eyes, again, he's the snake that was made from Azami's very first wish. And because her first wish specifically was to understand herself and understand her own existence, uh, his powers are really different from the rest of the snakes. His power is the ability to just know a lot of shit. And that's what he knows specifically. The snake itself is very smart, and also because of the nature of the wish that created him, he's a little bit different from the other snakes in that his powers don't specifically cater to a specific wish. For example, all the other snakes, like Momo's drawing eyes, they they always fulfill a very specific wish. Momo wanted growing up, she wanted people to notice her, so that's what drawing eyes can do. That's why she got drawing eyes. The wish that the snake of clearing eyes has to fulfill, it can be any wish as long as it's an extremely strong wish and the number one wish in their heart. Um, and because of this, like basically, it always has to follow its owner's number one wish. But because it's so smart, it can find loopholes around this if it wants to, and it decided to do this to Azami when her number one wish changed from understanding herself to being with her family forever. Um, so it told her, it spoke to her for the very first time and told her that it has a way for her to do that, for to be with her family forever. He tells her that she can use the snake and combining eyes to create the Kagero days, basically a new world where time doesn't flow properly. And so if she was to make this new world, she can basically bring her family into it, and they would stop aging, and she could live with them forever. This was the solution to her new wish. And so Azami listens to him, and she starts using the snake combining eyes to use all of her other snakes to create this new world. And what happens during and after this time changes a little bit. Um, it changes a little bit like throughout the routes, but mainly what happens is that Tsukihiko, her husband, decides that he wants to marry her before they enter the days together. She agrees, and he tells her that he'll go get a wedding veil in his village. While he is gone, she ends up getting attacked by humans, and usually Shion is there too, watching the attack. Once Azami fends off the attack from these humans who are persecuting her, she concludes that she herself is a curse to her family, and that if she wasn't there, that they would have gotten attacked to begin with. And so she decides to enter the Kagero days alone and leave behind her husband and Shion, her daughter. And so that's the end of Azami's story for now. Um, Hundreds of years passed, and Shion has her own beautiful daughter named Mary, and it's great because they live in this little. They still live in like Azami's little cottage in the middle of nowhere together for a very long time, until one day, August 15th, they die. And Azami, who was watching them from the Kagero days during this entire time, she sees them die, and so she brings them into the Kagero days right before their dying breaths. And since the Kagero days is a place where time doesn't flow, basically, as long as she brings them in, like before they're 100% dead, they're gonna be in the days, and they won't die, essentially. And so that's great, right? Because like now Asami's with her daughter and her granddaughter, and they're not dead. Yay, right? Well, it turns out it's not great because the Kagero days was actually Kage Hell. It's pretty awful, and especially for Azami and her family for some reason. It's like this giant massive black snakes that don't let them move. And it turns out that that's because the snake clearing eyes, who I am going to call Sairu every once in a while, he tricked Azami when he told her how to make this place. He never told her that it'd be nice. Anyway, so she's been hanging out in this hell this entire time, and now her family's stuck in there with her. So Sairu begins taunting her. And he tells her that Shion and Mary are suffering because they're essentially still dying in the Kogoro days. And now they're just stuck here in the state of perpetual death. And he tells her that she can actually get one of them out of here, out of the days. And this is how basically the two the two of them, Shion and Mary, they were compatible with one of Azami's snakes. And what she could do was give them the snake, and this snake would act as a replacement for the life that they had lost. Um, and essentially let them live. Because if they were to leave the Kagero days right now as they are, they'll die instantly. But if they have a snake, they won't. And basically, with that snake, they can return to the real world, and they'll also, as a bonus, get that snake's powers. And he tells her that only one of her snakes is compatible with the two of them. It's the snake combining eyes, this queen snake. And so Azami has to choose. She tries to get her daughter Shion out, but Shion says no, so she ends up giving the snake combining eyes to Mary. And this causes a huge load of shit. Because thing is, snake combining eyes, it needs the rest of the snakes to use its ability to be able to alter the world and other worlds. It needs the other snakes, and the rest of the snakes, they really want to be with the snake combining eyes. Because the thing is, when Azami, whenever she used her powers, she was essentially telling the snake combining eyes to tell what the other snakes to do. So now that the snakes suddenly realize they're without their queen, they all decide screw that, we want to be with the snake combining eyes, and most of them just immediately left Azami like on the spot. And they all decide that they want to be in the real world where Mary and the snake combining eyes is. Furthermore, the snake and combining eyes is required to control the Kagero days at all. And the last command that Azami gave the Kagero days before giving the snake to Mary was the command to take in those who died on this day, August 15th. And so when she gave the days that command and then gave the snake to Mary, she never undid that command. So the Kagura days basically started doing this phenomenon. And here are the rules of the days. These are not all of the rules. This is just basically how to get in and out. Basically, uh, anyone who dies on August 15th, near where Shion and Mary first died, gets swallowed by the Kagura days. It's a very wide radius where of like where the days like does this. Basically, they died in like a mount. They like died in a forest in the mountains, and like the ocean near that forest, and the city next to that mountain. Though like that those places also get affected by the days on August 15th. If two or more people die together by the same cause of death, they will be taken in together by the days and basically be in their own little pocket in the days. The days creates pockets for everyone that swallows, but if two or people are together when they get swallowed, then it lets them stay together in the days essentially. And if someone who got swallowed into the Kagura days has a strong wish before or during their death that can be fulfilled by a snake's power, then the snake can basically do what it did with Temeri. It can act as a replacement for the life they had lost, give them its powers, and let them leave the days back to the real world as long as it's August 15th in the real world as well. So basically, that starts happening every year on August 15th, outside of Azami's control. And throughout the like next couple tens of years later, basically four snakes managed to get out by coincidence or by fate, whatever you call it, and that would be the snakes that belong to Kiro Setokano and to Momo. Basically, all four of them had these specific backstories that made them have very specific wishes that their snakes could fulfill through their powers. And as for these three, they end up meeting in an orphanage and all end up getting adopted by these two, Kenjiro and Ayaka Tateyama. Ayaka, the mother specifically, she is studying Azami, the Medusa, and she realized that these three were somehow related to her. And so they adopted them, but they still saw them as their own children. And their only biological daughter or child, Ayano, she decides to take these three in as her younger siblings, and to make them feel better about their red eyes, she creates this organization, quote unquote, called Mekakushidan, which is basically just like a made up hero, child hero organization that has heroes who wear red and don red and take down bad guys. That's what the Mekakushidan was at the beginning. A little bit time later, Seto ends up running away from home. He meets Mary, yay. And fast forward a little bit to the next August 15th, Kenjiro and Ayaka Tateyama, they unfortunately die in a landslide. And of course, since it's August 15th, they end up both entering the Kagero days, and only Kenjiro ends up getting out. And the snake that Kenjiro ended up getting out with was the Snake of Clearing Eyes. The same snake that tricked Azami to make the Kagero days itself. And the Snake of Clearing Eyes, turns out he has one more special little thing when he's possessing, or when he is held by a human. I don't know if that's the right term. But basically, when Sairu has a human host, he can possess them whenever he wants. And while possessing them, they have no memories of what they're doing, and they're essentially just asleep while he does whatever he wants in their body. Um, and for Kenjiro, he specifically did this at nighttime. Basically, after Kenjiro was done with his shifts as a teacher, he would just take over Kenjiro's body and do and basically work towards the plan that was mentioned earlier. Oh wait, I don't think I mentioned the plan yet. So yeah, he basically would cater towards Kenjiro's plan, or rather his new plan for Kenjiro, because Kenjiro had a different wish. His wish, when he was being crushed by the landslide, was to basically basically be able to see his wife again, because he couldn't see her when he was dying, and now he knows that she's like basically stuck in this other dimension somehow, and and he can't get her out now that he's back in the real world. That's what his wish is, to be with his wife again. And Snake Clearing Eyes slash Sairu, he always has to comply to his master's number one wish. So he has to basically work for this plan. But of course, since Sairu is so smart, he can find a way to write this plan to also fulfill his own needs. So here's the plan that he made. Basically, Kenjiro, he wants to be with his wife again, but she's stuck in the Kagero days. The solution: make a new Medusa who basically is strong enough to merge the real world and the Kagero days together. Um, and to do that, basically, uh, you need to reunite the rest of the snakes with the snake combining eyes, which is in the real world. So first, get the rest of the snakes out. There are four more still in the Kagero days. First we gotta basically Saito, what he plans to do is find four people who are compatible with with these snakes, at least four. Um, Kill them on August 15th to make sure they enter the days and make sure they get out. And once all the snakes are out, then kill everyone who has a snake with them because this automatically causes their snakes to go to whoever has the snake combining eyes, aka Mary. And um, when these snakes reunite with the snake and combining eyes, the queen snake immediately becomes stronger. So eventually, once the queen absorbs all the snakes, it will be strong enough to basically merge the two worlds together and thus fulfill Kenjiro's wish. That was Sayuru's solution. And so, uh, he begins. Anyway, Ayano Tateyama, she enters school and she meets Shintaro Kisaragi in her class, and they kind of become friends. And then a little bit later, before they enter their first year of high school, they meet Haruka Kokonose and Takane Enomoto during their school festival. These two are Kenjiro's only students, because they both have special needs slash disabilities that prevent them from learning in a normal classroom environment. And basically, the four of them, after this whole incident, they really hit it off, especially once Shintaro and Ayano enter high school. But going back to the festival though, so this festival was during Haruka and Takuno's like first year of high school and during Shintaro Ayano's last year of middle school. Right after this festival, basically, Ayano found out that her dad, first of all, is being possessed by the snake. And second, she found out what the snake was planning to do with Haruka and Takane. Basically, what he planned to do with them was kill them on August 15th because they are compatible with two of the snakes in there. And after that, he was going to kill them again and also kill her younger siblings, because they all have snakes. And so Ayano realizes that this is what the snake is going to do with her father, going to do through her father, and so she desperately tries to come up with a plan to stop him. And by herself, she does come up with a plan. She basically decides that if the snake clearing eyes wants to get all of the snakes out of the days, what if I go into the Kagero days by myself with the wish to get a snake, and then don't leave? That way, the snake of clearing eyes can't get all the snakes out, and so it can never fulfill its plan to create a complete Medusa, because she will always be down one snake, and so she won't be able to fulfill my dad's wish anymore. And so that's what she does. She decides to, on August 15th, 2 years before the plot, she jumps off her school's rooftop and enters the Kagero days alone. Most routes, these two happen to be there with her and watch the entire thing. Kenjiro being possessed by Saito, of course, and so basically, she does that, and she enters the Kagero days, and she gets the Snake of Favoring Eyes, which usually in most routes, what the Snake of Favoring Eyes gives her Azami's memories. In the route, I think in the novel route specifically, Azami basically did this. She used Favoring Eyes to give Ayano her memories before giving Ayano like the snake herself. But usually she finds out Azami's memories, and then the snake itself gives her the power to telepathically share her memories, including Azami's, and also share her thoughts or feelings. But since she's stuck in the days now, and she's not going to get out, there's not much she can do with the snake. She just has to sort of sit there in the days. And that was her plan, basically. Did it work? No. Turns out Sayuri did not give a crap about that because he just went ahead right after killed killed Haruka, or rather Haruka collapsed from heart disease because he has this like awful heart disease that will kill him by the time he's 16, and he does succumb on August 15th, and Sayuri makes sure that he dies all the way. While in the days, basically Haruka, his wish while dying was, or his entire life was to have a strong enough body to make friends with. And so he ended up being compatible with the Snake Awakening Eyes, which can basically rebuild his body. And it does. It rebuilds his body to look like his video game avatar, Konoha. And in the anime route, basically, well, Haruka looks at this and he says, "What the heck? That's not me. I don't like that." And so his body was like, "Okay, fine," and left the Kagero days with the snake, and that was Konoha. Essentially, what happens in every single route is that Haruka is unable to accept this body, and with this new body that the snake made for him. So what happens is his mind stays in the Kagero days while his body leaves the Kagero days with the snake. Um, like with the snake awakening eyes. And basically, his body is without a host in the real world with this little snake piling the brain. And this snake, all it can remember is Haruka's wish, which was to make friends with this new body. And so Konoha can't be. He's just this little creature who wants to make friends and is cute. As for Ene, uh, as for Takane slash Ene, Takane dies via poisoning, I believe, and she enters the Kagero days, and she ends up being compatible with the snake at opening eyes. And what this does, it separates her mind from her body, which coincides with her wish to basically her wish was to not need to be able to eat or sleep because of her physical illness made that very troublesome. And when it separated her mind from her body, basically she woke up um, she woke up in this laboratory and could see her body lying on this table. And then she saw a bright light. So she goes towards this bright light, and the light ended up being the internet because Ene, her basically Takane, her mind turned to Ene, this little cyber being, and who can enter the internet and other like digital devices. And so, like most of us, Takane got lost in the internet. Unfortunately, though, she never really found her way back, and so she lost her body. Uh, Shintaro, meanwhile, after this, he lost all three of his friends because he only had three friends. He lost all of them in one day. Top it off, it's the anniversary of his dad's death. Anyway, so he doesn't take that well, and he drops out of school. He like ultimately blames himself for Iona's death. Like, don't get me wrong, Haruka's death like devastated him, and Takane's like disappearance made no sense to him. But what affected him most was Ayano's suicide because Ayano's death was reported as a suicide, and he had reasons to believe that he basically aggravated her suicide. Anyway, 1 year before the start of the series, Enna ends up emailing herself to Shintaro, and she recognizes him. He does not recognize her, but she decides that she's going to stay with him and not tell her who she is. Meanwhile, Kiro, Sato, and Kano, the three of them decide to move away from Kenjiro to a new apartment. This was specifically Kano's idea because Kano knew that Kenjiro was being possessed by the Snake of Clearing Eyes. Specifically, he was being threatened by the Snake of Clearing Eyes to follow its orders because it threatened to take Kiro and Seto's lives if he doesn't. But it basically gave him permission to move away. So he did that with these two, and they took in Mary as well. So what happens next in present time and plot changes or across the routes. In some routes, Shintaro and Ena have a very bad time. Basically, Shintaro gets really depressed. He doesn't want to go outside at all. And on August 15th of the current plot line, he gets really fed up with Ena and kills her. And then after killing her, he kills himself. How these route how these routes end, like this specific ending for the route is called Route XX, as shown in Lost Time Memory. And again, this is how canonically the music route ends. It's implied that much more than one route ends this way specifically for these two. But in the other routes where this doesn't happen, usually Shintaro ends up going outside for the first time in 2 years on August 14th of the current plot and ends up getting held hostage by a bunch of terrorists at a mall. That's great though because he ends up meeting Nakakushi-dan at this point, who of course have already recruited his little sister. And so once they take down the terrorists, because they do, they go ahead and have a great time. It's great. Meanwhile, on August 15th of the current plot, like the next day essentially, Hibiya and Hiyori, they end up dying and entering the Kagero days. And this is of course on purpose. Hiyori is actually Kenjiro's sister-in-law. She is Ayaka's little sister, and Hibiya is her friend. And Sairu knew from previous routes that these two are already both compatible with the very last snake in there besides Favoring Eyes, which is the snake of Focusing Eyes. And so, what Sairu makes sure to do every single route is make sure that these two are in the city on August 15th and make sure that they die on August 15th. Usually, how he does this is that he tells Kano to pretend to be a black cat to lead them into a street where they'll get hit by a truck. However, in the anime route, like specifically, he honestly got pretty fed up and he decided to just try to kidnap them and shoot them. And they end up getting hit by a truck anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, they're both compatible with Snake of Focusing Eyes, but usually Hibiya is the only one that gets out. And the reason why they're both compatible isn't really explained, but my theory is because, like, during their deaths, they were so, focused on each other that, and during the days especially, they were very focused on each other that, they both end up being compatible for the Snake. Anyway, now that almost every snake is out of the days except for Favoring Eyes, which is a lost cause. What does Saito do? Well, it's time to take over Konoha's body and start some mass murder. Uh, because since Konoha basically has a super strong body and it's a body without a human host, Saito can very easily just take over this body and control it at will and do whatever he wants with it. So he uses it to instantly change his color scheme into an edgy one and just start brutally mass murdering the Mekakushidan, usually with a gun, but also with his bare hands. And there's two main reasons why he does this. That actually is not because of the plan that he had for Kenjiro. The reason why he does this is one, well, to forcibly return the dance snakes to Mary, because that's what happens when they die, and to strengthen her combining eyes, but it's also mainly to make Mary's number one wish to become to see her friends again, because they're being brutally murdered in front of her. And so he starts telling her, wish like you can do it. You can actually use your powers to see your friends again. And so she starts using combining eyes and the snakes that she has absorbed to desperately wish for her friends to come back, and so she begins to rewind time and the world, and she rewinds all the way back to its beginning, all the way back to those eyes in the darkness. And this is Sayada's plan the entire time. He always wants to do this every single route. Anyway, just to laundry list his crimes, what he does. This is stuff that he specifically does while possessing Kenjiro. First one doesn't sound so bad, but it's like we know he does tax evasion to do this, so he truly is a criminal. Number three, it's been highly hinted that he is in charge of like creating all these new infrastructures within their building. Or, no, infrastructures and buildings within their city, including like his laboratory which is like an entire building that he created to essentially just hold all these goons that he hires and Takane Haruka's bodies. He's also possibly behind the terrorist incident. It's been shown that the terrorist incident does happen without his like influence, but the Kaguro Days in a Days movie specifically hints that he has some involvement with it. And yeah. And he always ends the route with mass team murder, of course. I don't know, Marina, if that lab is at the underground of the school, because MCA actually shows that that building is like, or that lab is in its own building. Anyway, how to get out of the time loops though? So they're all stuck in this awful time loop. How to get out? Well, lost time memory shows that Shintaro has an eye power. And that anime reveals that his eye power is retaining eyes, which lets him remember everything he sees. At its full potential, he can remember past routes. And where did he get this eye power? Well, he got it many, many, many routes ago from Mary. This therefore makes him the only Mekakushidan member who has a snake, not from an incident in his childhood, but he's the only member who basically has a snake before birth. And so, where does the snake come from? Well, the snake is called the snake of retaining eyes, Meni Yakisukeru Hebi, and she has basically been in Kagepro since the beginning. She is Shintaro Snake, and she is her own character. She has sentience as well, and she's depicted as Ayano without a scarf, and oftentimes in fan art, she's also depicted with like scales. If you want to know more about her, she is more is explained about her in the manga. Basically, I don't really want to go over all of Manga Route 2, but Manga Route 2 is where you want to go if you want to learn more about her. And yeah, if you ever see fan art of Ayano with like basically no scarf and scales on her cheek, that's usually referring to this character who we call Yaki, based off her Japanese name. But yeah, So snake retaining eyes, very important. Very important that Shintaro can remember past memories. Now, so how does he solve it? Go to anime route, aka Mecha City Actors. Shintaro episode 8, he awakens retaining eyes, and so he remembers all the past routes. Shintaro goes to the days by himself, and because he knows that he can, and he goes to Ayano. He tells her, "Hey, let's get the heck out of here," and she says, "Okay." And also, while they're talking, he's like, "Hey, don't you have Azami's memories? And also, don't I have some memories of of just like the Kagero days? Can you please tell Mary like how to control the Kagero days when we see her?" And Ayano's like, "Okay." And so, uh, also they try to get Haruka out, but Haruka he can't get out because he's on a snake or a body. So the two of them leave the days and they go to Mary, who at this point has already absorbed everyone else's snakes because Sayuri literally taunted her into do it. Like he said, "Bet you can't," and she's like, "Bet I can." So she is ready to rewind the world. Well, Shintaro and Ayano come in, and so Ayano basically transfers all these memories over to her to tell her how to control the Kagero days and how to merge the real world and the Kagero days together. Mary does exactly that. And if you remember, that was the original goal for Sayuri's plan with Kenjiro. And Kenjiro is still alive at this point. He is dying because he was separated from his own snake Sayuri, who went to go possess Konoha, but he's still alive and good because when Mary merges the two worlds together, Kenjiro is reunited with his wife Ayaka. Now, this is a huge deal because also when the real world and the days merge together, Haruka was also reunited with his body. And basically, Haruka has higher control over his body than Sayuru does. And now that they're all in the days, Haruka again he has control over his body, and so suddenly Sayuru no longer has a compatible host because Kenjiro no longer has a wish for him, and Haruka already has his own snake, so Haruka has zero wishes for him. So suddenly Sayuru has zero wishes, and he begins disappearing. He in the anime it shows him this shows us him starting to sink to the ground. He literally starts dying because he has no wish to sustain off of. So he starts begging desperately, "Someone, anyone, please give me a wish." And it turns out one person does have a wish for him. It's Konoha, who's barely hanging on. Konoha is this close to disappearing, but he has a wish, and it's an extremely strong one. His wish is to get Hiyori out of the days because Hiyori has been stuck in the days since Hibia basically got in it, and she's been in it for a while, according to Day's time. And Konoha knows this. He watched her suffer in the days, and he wants her to get out. And so, Sayuru is forced to fulfill Konoha's wish for Hiyori to live. So Sayuru is taken into Hiyori's body, and he's also forced to fulfill Hiyori's wish because now she's his new master, and her wish is the same as Konoha's to get out of the Kagero days and to be alive and healthy and basically live a normal life. And so Sayuru is forced to complete this wish. He's forced to comply with these two wishes, and there's no way around them. Usually he can find a loophole around these wishes, but there's no way to go around this wish. It's so simple. And so because of that, Sayuru, he disappears. Basically, his consciousness gets completely suppressed at this point because he has completely fulfilled Hiyori's wish. Now all he can do is basically act as her replacement life. And so Sayuru's defeated, and they go through this. And now the Mekakushi's done is okay. Mary merges the real world, or she separates the real world and the days again. She gives everyone back their snakes. They're alive. Ayano and Hiyori are also out of the days. Yay! That is the end of Kagepro, and essentially how they defeat Sayuru. I hope that made sense. Anyway, so that was the explanation of the root. I hope. Thank you so much for listening. I also included some common fan theories that I've heard throughout the years. These are theories that I myself have believed, admittedly, and this is just basically just stuff that we thought up of as time went on throughout the series. My favorite one is basically the second one, Kagepro, but I originally thought the Kagepro was about these experiments on underage and unwilling human test subjects. This was before Children Record came out. Yeah, this was before Children Record came out, so we only had headphone actor Kagero Days and Konoha no Sekai Jijo to go off of. And also, a very common theory before was two people required to go into the days. It made a lot of sense why people believe that, but and because of that, people also believe that like Haruka and Takane, like their whole days was this like whole weird thing where their body was like versus their mind in the days, and that also is completely understandable. But it later shows like upon reading that two people are not required to go to the days, you can totally enter it by yourself. And yeah, last part, Summertime Record is not about the Mekoshidan splitting up. I like to emphasize this point a lot because a lot of people believe this. But rather, Summertime Record is rather about them saying goodbye to a specific character. Um, and the lyrics can be read from both Haruka and Konoha's point of view. So it takes a little bit different meaning if you read it that way. Anyway, yeah. So thank you so much for listening to the chronological explanation of like Kagepro's lore. So now I will go ahead and check the form to see if there are any questions that have been submitted. Here's the form again. If you want to submit any questions that you have now that you've listened to the presentation, but let me go over and check. All right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show the slide here so you guys can see the questions as they're being asked. So, hold on. No. Okay, so first question that I see in the forum is, how do Ayano and Shintaro get into the days individually when Azumi's last order was to quote-unquote swallow up two people on the brink of death? Honestly, it just seems that the snake can swallow people individually as well. There are at least like 5 different instances where the Kagero days is swallowed a single individual. So it seems like either this was a mistranslation, but I don't think it was, because this is actually how this is translated in the novel. So, Asami's last command to the days was swallow up two people, and most likely that's actually how it was written in the novels as well. Like, because two people is a specific noun in Japanese. It's like futari. So most likely that is the actual command even in the original text. But to simply answer it, I don't know. It seems like the days just kind of like swallowing individuals as well. So it's able to get those two in by themselves as well. All right. Next question is how old is Mary? Mary is confirmed over 100 years old. She basically stopped counting around 100, or she lost count around 100 seasons. Uh, like her canonical, like assumed or like human age, quote unquote, is shit. Is it 17 or 19? No, I think it's 17. Like, and that's because that's the age that the Mekukushidan assigned to her. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Marina, for correcting me. Yeah, so according to the booklet, she's like 140 years old. Next question, is locking ice a snake power, or is that just a function of Medusa biology? The latter is correct. It's a function of Medusa biology and has nothing to do with the specific snake. It seems like that's just one of the powers that Azami like came with that's biological and slash genetics. So when she gave to Shion, who's half human, Shion's control of this power is not very great, and then Mary, she can only do a fraction of what Azami can do with locking eyes. I'm sorry. I know that some of you guys had fun with your questions, but I'm just gonna answer the lower ones. Do we know how Shion had Mary yet? No, but it's hinted that Shion genuinely fell in love with a human who came across her cottage, based off the manga. A specific scene in the manga. It seems like Shion just had a husband at some point and had a good time with him, and he died before Mary could. Before he died, like before Imagination Forest. Imagination Forest does show a glimpse of her father in one of the frames, so she did have a father who was there up until Mary was like a young child, which we know took a very long time. Yeah. Next question is, how is Manga Route 2 if we saw Manga Route 1 before it? It's simply called Manga Route 2 because it's the second route shown in the manga. However, it takes place before all the other routes. Like simply Manga Route 2 in the manga is shown as a giant flashback. It's like just one giant flashback. It's actually Yaki telling Shintaro what happens in this route after the events of Manga Route 1. Like that's basically what's happening. So we just call it Manga Route 2 because it's the second route in the manga. It's kind of rather confusing though because it takes place before all the other ones. Next question is how long has Mary been by herself before Seto found her? It's not specified how long, but assuming that she ages roughly one year per 10 actual years, a long time, probably like well easily decades, but we don't know specifically how long it's been. Um, Next question. Not sure if this counts, but how did Kano disappear in Manga Route 2 when Sayo caught him? He didn't disappear, he was killed. He was straight up murdered. I don't really know how to answer this question because he doesn't disappear. And Kano Snake does not disappear either in Manga Route 2. He just, spoiler, he dies by having his neck crushed. R.I.P. Is there ever an answer for how Shintaro managed to kill Ene in Route XX despite her opening eyes? Yes, actually. It seems that, and of course this is theory, it's not explicitly stated, it seems that destroying the device that Ene is in actually kills her. And this is mainly inferred from the manga when Kuroha quote-unquote kills Ene by crushing Shintaro's phone. I don't think he would have done that. I don't think that would have been so dramatic if that wasn't actually severely significant. And also, the novel route also hints that that destroying the device that Ene is actually kills her because in the novel route, Ene was in Seto's phone, and then suddenly Seto's phone was dead and Ene was dead. So yeah, that's how it seems to kill Ene. That really sucks though, because imagine one route that Shintaro's just like having Ene in his phone, and then he drops her into this like into a toilet, and then like she's dead. Doesn't that suck? Anyway. What would happen if you gave Sayuru a paradoxical wish? Honestly, I don't know because this is a very vague question. I don't know what sort of wish would be paradoxical. But it has to be a wish that you have in your heart. It needs to be a very strong wish guided by emotions. So if your wish just happening paradoxical, I'm sure he can find a way around it. I'm sure he'll come up with something. He's a very smart dude. He's a very smart snake, and so he'll just find a way to fulfill his own agenda if possible. How do you spell Mary, Mary, Mary? There was a reason why in my previous slide with her, there were four different versions of her name being spelled. That's because the way her name is spelled changes across media. It's hilarious. I think in the novel route, her name is spelled like Mary, like this, but in like the anime, like the official Crunchyroll subtitles, like her name is spelled Mary with two R's, and I think an official English guide to name her with Mary with two R's. For the longest time, we called her Mary with just one R. It's a mess. And yeah, sometimes, and of course, like technically, the actual romanization of her name is actually just Mari with just Mari. So yeah. How do you spell it? However you want to spell it, honestly. Good luck finding a consistent tag for her in social media. Next question. Let's see. Has this been recorded? Did I remember to record this? Yes, I remember to record it. So let me just get this back. Yes, I am recording this right now, so I will go ahead and share this with Dani if possible to upload onto the Dazecon YouTube channel because I do not feel like uploading it on my own. But yeah, thank you. Next question. What was the most confusing part of Kagepro for you? And for you, the question giver was Konano Sekai Jijo. For me, the most confusing part of Kagepro, I think, was like in the last year when I had like 20 or like way more than 20 discussions with like Kova Marin here in the Twitch chat. Basically, we like heavily discussed the Kagero days and the snakes and like the wishes that make the snakes and the circumstances of the snakes and everything. And it took a lot of time just to compile all that information together, try to figure everything out, finding stuff that contradicted each other and trying to figure out the solutions behind that. It took a lot of time to try to understand everything about the snakes in the Kagero days. specifically, I think. Yeah, lost time memory also it doesn't have a complete solution either. So yeah, a lot of Kagepro is still very confusing, and there's actually a lot of stuff that I don't have answers for in terms of like questions. But yeah, question: would an all-you-can-eat buffet be the downfall of Konoha? No, he has awakening eyes. He can literally just make a body that can eat everything, and he does. Konoha cannot be defeated. What about Mary's dad? I already answered that question. Uh, basically, it's just some dude, but thankfully hinted that Shion genuinely loved him, whoever he was. How do the Medusa eyes work for Shion? I think that was answered before. It's basically just locking eyes, which is Azami's genetic eye ability and her only genetic eye ability. And since Shion's half human, she only has half of this ability, and it's hinted that using it once just hurts her really, really bad. So it's best if she just doesn't use it. Uh, are the Kagero Days anthologies canon? No, they are not. They are not canon, but Tsubomi-chan will always be canon in my heart. And honestly, you can read a lot of them as canon, especially the ones that are made by the official artists. So like the ones made by Wanyapu, like during her time, and like Sidu. You can like consider them canon, but officially they're not. So just take most of the anthologies with like a grain of salt, mostly, like most of the time. Um, would you consider any ships to be canonized by the base material? Of course, Tsukihiko slash Azami, all the way. Also, Kenjiro and Ayaka, of course. Yeah, I ship the adult ships. Yeah, love them. Are question: are Haruka and Konoha the same person or not? They're not the same person. Konoha is the snake of awakening eyes when it's in Haruka's body without Haruka being there. Basically, Konoha is like the combination of the Snake Awakening Eyes plus Haruka's body. And Haruka is his own self. So when Konoha is in the real world, Haruka's mind is still stuck in the days. But you can definitely consider them two separate characters. Let's see. Why did Enna decide to hide the truth from Shintaro? I think she does explain the exact reason in the novel route, I think, while arguing with him. I think she was too embarrassed. That was one of the reasons why. She was just genuinely too embarrassed, and she thought that he wouldn't believe her. And also, she thought that maybe she would, I think maybe she thought she would make a better impact on him if he didn't know who she was, because he had zero respect for Takana, like, before she died, so, she kind of realized that with this fresh start that she had, she could just bug the shit out of him. And she did also stated in the novels that she genuinely thought that Shintaro would kill himself if he was left alone. And so she probably thought that she had a better chance of preventing that as Enne than Takane. So yeah, basically, she did it for several reasons, complicated reasons most likely, but in the end, I think she just didn't want to continue that bad relationship that Takane had with Shintaro when she entered his computer this way. Also, like, how would you react, like, if the girl that you argued with, like, all the time just showed up as a virus on your computer? That'd be kind of rough. Uh, question: does Shion ever adopt a snake power? No. And all the routes that we know so far, no. And the only snake that she's compatible with anyway is the snake combining eyes. So it's possible there's a route where Shion is the new Medusa instead of Mary, but very unlikely because Shion loves her daughter so much that she basically will not accept the snake combining eyes if Mary is in the picture. Okay, so next question is, in the light novel, Sayuru attacks Kano while he's disguised as Mary, but doesn't Sayuru need Mary to, in order to reset time or something? Don't apologize, you're fine. That is true. However, it has been shown in the anime that Mary can rewind the world, rewind time, without everyone else dying, because what she can do is literally rip the snakes out of them. I actually answered this question in one of my other slides. So basically, I have all these slides with like common questions that that people ask about the series. But But for how I answered this question was probably for funsies to see what happens, like why he tries to kill Mary in some routes. You see, Mary can rewind time without him killing everyone by forcibly taking their snakes, so maybe he was trying to trigger that by basically attacking her. Maybe he thought like if I fatally attack her, maybe she'll like by survival instinct she'll just take everyone's snakes and rewind the world to with the wish of like I want to go back to a time where I'm not dying. Yep, that's probably honestly it's just probably for funsies though. Why does he attack Mary? Just to see what happens. For your question, is the snake in retaining eyes formerly Ayano herself? Yeah, big spoiler from Manga Route 2. Yes. Simply yes. Favorite base Shintaro moment? The moment in the manga Route 2 when he is groveling at a soda machine because his wallet is only full of 1 yen coins, which is ridiculous and worth less than a penny, by the way. And he desperately wants a soda at 2 a.m. in the morning. And who does he run into? Kido Tsubomi, who laughs at him until she can't breathe anymore, and then buys him a soda. That is easily my favorite Shintaro moment in the entire series because it's just ridiculous. Uh, is the pocket for Hiyori and Hibi and Hiyori's, I'm guessing you mean their days? Days connected to Konoha's pocket? No, it is not. The reason why Konoha no Sekai Jijo happens, where he is able to watch their days, is because Konoha, in every single route, apparently, he also dies with Hibiya and Hiyori. Despite the fact that he's like almost never shown being with them when they die, he just happens to be there. I think the canon explanation and most reasonable explanation is that whenever he sees them about to get hit by the truck, he literally just jumps in front of the truck too, like as fast as he can, and they all three of them die instantly. And he always ends up entering the days with them. However, because of reasons not really explained, but we can assume it's because Haruka is already in the days, and because when in the days Haruka always gets his body back. Um, we can assume that that is why Konoha is always forced to watch Hibiya and Hiyori's days as an outsider. Basically, even though he was put into the days with them and he's in their pocket, he can't interact with it and he can't do anything about it. It seems to be like a quote unquote glitch or something with the days, but like that's basically what Konoha no Sekai Jijo is. And yeah, it seems like because like he's actually a snake, that also being the reason why he's like forced to like watch. But because he's a snake and because he's the snake awakening eyes specifically, even though he dies and enters the days, he can easily get out as long as it's still August 15th. What are the most popular fan theories that people think are actually canon? I think the two people required to get into the days and only one person can get out is the most popular fan theory. That is not canon because even I believe that up to last year. And it's really understandable why that was one of the major Kagepro theories. And another thing that a lot of people seem to think are canon is that after Summer 10 Records, Mekushi-dan like split ways and like never talk to each other again, and that's just wrong. And honestly, doesn't make sense at all if like you've read any of the roots at all. So yeah. What manga panel is most vividly stuck in your head? I think I literally described it word for word. It's Shintaro pressed up against the soda machine, crying. And last question that I have here in the form is Kano always confronted by Sayado to be an inside spy? It seems like yes, except in Manga Route 2. So in every route shown except for Manga Route 2, the answer is yes. In Manga Route 2 specifically, the answer is no, because Sayado actually doesn't really do anything besides just start killing people randomly in Manga Route 2, but that's enough for him. But yeah, so it's interesting to see a Sayado Kano where he's not affected by Sayado in Manga Route 2. I think it's really interesting seeing that side of him. But yeah. That is the last question that I've run into this Google form. So yeah, but I am getting more questions, so let me look. Next question was, does Hibiya ever find out that the cat was Kano? I don't think he does. I don't think he does, and honestly, I don't think he ever will, because Kano was not the cat in the anime route. So, since the anime route is officially the last route, unless Shintaro literally snitches on Kano and tells Hibiya, hey, by the way, Kano's literally behind your death in like some of the routes, like I don't think Hiba's going to find out, nor do I think will Hiba completely understand. But wouldn't that be interesting, don't you think? Yeah. Does he? Does he explain to Hiba that he was the cat in Light Novel 5? I'm reading it. I don't know, does he? I haven't read the novels in a while, but maybe he does. I don't know. It's been a little while since I read Light Novel 5 to whoever's asking. And seems like I got a new question. Could Cider take over a dead host? Most likely the answer is no. I'm saying this because it's canon that Cider he's still subjugated under the snake combining eyes. So it doesn't seem to be any reason why he doesn't follow the same rule as the other snakes, whereas if their owner dies, they immediately get returned to the snake combining eyes. So most likely if Hiyori were to die, like at this moment, Saito would just be returned to Mary because she has a snake combining eyes. Most likely that's like what's going to happen. But yeah, that is also that. Now that's the last question in the form. Never mind. Next question: do Ayano, Takane, and Haruka die on the same day? Answer is yes, they do. And it's awful for Shintaro. Imagine that. Imagine that you have 3 friends only and they all die on the same day, and whereas you expected one of them to die, suddenly all of them did on the same day and you get blamed for one of them. It's not a good feeling. Shintao's horrible, terrible, very bad, no good day. Yes. Alright, more questions. Someone said thanks for the stream. Thank you for watching. Question: is Shintaro actually an OP video game player? Answer: yes, smiley face, he is. However, it is theorized that the reason why he's so good at Headphone Actor, like, you know, the video game that Takane, Haruka, and Kenjiro made, the reason why he's so good at that one specifically and has a 100% score is because he remembers from previous routes that he played it already. So he literally memorized where every single enemy spawns. However, for other video games, we can actually just assume that he's good at aiming because he has like millions and millions of game FPS shooter time on his resume. He just doesn't know it. Shintaro. Timeline 1, he was just complete shit at Headphone Actor. Honestly, yeah, probably. I would love to see that. Yeah. Next question is similar. Does Shintaro does he do so well on test scores because of retaining eyes? It's hinted, implied very much yes, smiley face. Yeah, it's hinted that the reason why he gets 100% specifically on every single one of his tests is because he remembers from past routes that's what he, like, basically what his answers were. And it's not like multiple choice changes across timelines, so he just remembers everything, and he remembers all of his lessons. And so that's also why Shintaro is like so like sad all the time until my answer, because he already seems to know everything, and it sucks. Does Shintaro have intrusive thoughts? I don't know. I mean, based off his like narration in the novels, probably. And the thing is, like, the snake of retaining eyes only talks to him either when he's asleep / falling asleep, or once he fully awakens his abilities. So he can have intrusive thoughts as a snake from a snake, I guess, but like there needs to be specific circumstances around it. I guess I'm like hoping that's basically what you're asking. Next question. So after the days where when retaining eyes doesn't apply anymore, Shintaro's gonna be complete shit at life. Yo, Shintaro's already shit at life. Are we looking at the same character? But To explain though, no, because we already know that Shintaro, even without retaining eyes, he's still a really great guy, and he's still an extremely smart dude. Manga Route 2 shows us this because Manga Route 2 is the only route shown where he doesn't have retaining eyes, and yet he's still an amazing person who is also extremely smart. So most likely he's going to be fine even after STR, where he no longer, possibly no longer has her ability. Yeah. Next question. Does Shintaro only drink soda because Haruka liked it? Yes slash no. He only started drinking soda because Haruka introduced him, and then he kept drinking soda because he liked it. So, he doesn't drink soda because Haruka likes it. He drinks soda because Shintaro himself really just likes it. That's it. He likes soda, and it's not good for him. Next question. You guys are just submitting questions, and I love it. Could Iono and the Snake of Retaining Eyes be the Spider-Man theme in the timeline? Spider-Man meme in the timeline. uh, Honestly, I'd love to see that, and probably I'll go ahead and draw that next year. But I'm erasing that yes, because the answer is most likely no. The Snake of Retaining Eyes, unfortunately, only kind of exists in Shintaro's mindscape, and it's not It's so far it's not canon for anyone else to be inside Shintaro's mind except for himself. I remember I read like a theory in the Discord the other day that maybe Enne could do it with opening eyes, and that'd be hilarious. But sadly, I don't think we're getting any Ayano Yaki interactions for sure anytime soon. Oh yeah, that's true. Marina says that in Manga 2, Shintaro actually drank soda before meeting Haruka, so there's that at least. He just likes soda. Next question. Could any other snake take over their owner's body, or is that Saito exclusive? It seems like that is just a Saito exclusive. Uh, we don't see any other snakes taking over anyone else's bodies. The only reason why Konoha could do something like that is because his body had no host to begin with at the time. It seems like it's the only thing that Saito can do, and we don't really know why he can do it, but he's just a special little snowflake. This question. So Shintaro has Azami's memories? How does that work? He does not. Shintaro does not have Azami's memories. However, canonically, in previous routes, he does because Ayano gives them to him. At least in one route, Shintaro, like Ayano, literally used favoring eyes to give Shintaro her memories of Azami, and simply he remembers that. So yes, he does have Azami's memory because he got them in a previous route. And because of that, that is how in Mecha City Actors, he remembered how to control the Kairo days basically, and that Mary could. Yeah, so it's not that he has Azami's memories, except he does. It's just that he has memories of Azami's memories. Yeah. Next question. Could snakes talk to each other while being in each other's people's bodies? The answer is no. We don't have any instances of the snakes talking to each other, except for Kuroha slash Saito when he talks to Konoha. He talked to him once in the manga, but that's literally the only time we saw the snakes talking to each other. I guess also Yaki. Wait, no, she doesn't talk to Konoha. Never mind. But yeah, the most that we see the snakes talking, besides like Saru, Konoha, and Yaki, is when the snakes talk to their own hosts inside the Kagero days. They can talk to their hosts, and they can basically egg them on to accept them and to basically take them in. But we don't have any instances where the snakes can talk to each other, especially in the real world. Okay. Next question. Can Ayano use favoring on someone outside the days? Yes, only if the days has opened for a split second and Ayano knows that's going to happen. Because this actually happens exactly in the novel route. Ayano uses fairing eyes on the splits for on Mary, like for a split second. Um I think based off of Keto makes sure that this happens as she's dying in the novel route. She like tells Mary something, and that triggers Mary to open the days for a second. And during that second that the days opened, Ayano used favoring eyes on Mary. Yeah. So no, unless the days opens for a bit. And so it is possible. It's just that the days has to be open, like, or even for a second. Next question. Does Haruka still have awakening eyes after the anime route? Yes, he does. However, it's implied that either he can't really do more with it, or that like basically like he can't like make himself like into like a really buff man if he wanted to with the eyes. It seems like awakening eyes, all it does for him now is just simply give him a body that he can have friends with, and that's all he wanted. So yes, he does, otherwise he wouldn't be alive. But for sure, like Konoha is gone though, so let me just write that down. For sure though, Konoha is gone, and we don't really know how much Haruka can use his abilities with Awakening Eyes, but we can assume not that much, given how he's still wheelchair ridden, or he still requires a wheelchair even after having Awakening Eyes. However, we can tell that he has it for sure though, because his body seemingly merged with Konoha's after Summertime Record. How does Haruka beat his chronic illness? The simple answer is Awakening Eyes, and this is how we know he still has it. Awakening Eyes can literally pull a no you on like anything. So when Haruka got Awakening Eyes, his body basically what it did was pull a no you on Haruka's on illness, and so Haruka no longer has this illness with this body that Awakening Eyes made him. He's fine. The snake beat his illness. All good. So can one person have two snakes, like Konoha with Clearing and Awakening? Yes and no. So the reason why Sayuru/Clearing Eyes can specifically take over Konoha despite the fact that Konoha obviously already has a snake, is specifically because Konoha doesn't have a human host. Um, and because and I'm inferring this from the manga specifically, Sayuru hints that something along the lines of like Konoha / the Snake of Awakening Eyes is forced to listen to whatever commands that's given to it. So because of the nature of Awakening Eyes, he can easily take over it and force it to answer his biddings basically. So it seems like Kuroha is a special case of two snakes in one body. And so it's possible that so I don't think it's possible for him to like possess anyone else who already has a snake. Maybe it is, but we don't see any examples of that in canon, so we can't say for sure. Yeah. Next question. The snake always listen to retaining eyes, or can Clearing Eyes manipulate the snakes himself? I think you mean combining eyes here. And the answer is the snakes simply always listen to Combining Eyes unless Combining Eyes is not in the same body as them, which is the case for the entire series. In that case, that the snake is separated from the snake Combining Eyes, then it will do whatever it can by itself to try to get to Combining Eyes. But it doesn't seem like the snakes listen to any other snake besides themselves or combining. It doesn't seem like Sayuru can just rally them all up and be like, hey guys, listen to me, or anything like that, because they'll just be like, who the hell are you? But yeah, it seems like the answer is no, for your question. Next question. Can Enna use opening eyes at any given time? Yes, seeing how in series she uses it for 2 years straight. or actually 1 year straight. My bad, not 2 years. But yeah, she can use it for a year straight, and thank God Kenjiro slash Sayori was taking care of her body in the lab because I'm pretty sure she would have died if he wasn't doing that, if he didn't keep her in a jar. But yeah, it seems like she can. Once and the anime shows that once she gets her body back, she can literally just use opening eyes to go ahead and project her mind to like devices and stuff. It does cause her body to collapse though, so like she needs to be careful. Falling is pretty serious. What if she gives herself a concussion when she uses opening eyes? That would suck. Yeah. All right, and now I've reached the last question. Haha. Thank you for the influx of questions, y'all. Yeah, there's still another 14 minutes though to this, so hey, new question. Does Enna's body die when she's electronic particles? So no, her body isn't dead when she's Enna, but her body is vulnerable when she's Enna. So it still needs food, it still needs nutrition and fluid. So if she completely leaves her body alone for like a week and no one's taking care of it, she will die. But no, her body does stay alive thanks to, in the most roots, Sayuru slash Kenjiro keeps her body alive for some reason. I guess because if her body dies, she dies. Actually, yeah, that's canon. If her body dies, she dies. But and in the manga too, her body's kept alive in the hospital the entire time. But yeah, and if Enna, if her mind were to die, her body would most likely just die right after. Um, to answer your thing for why Takuna doesn't return to her body in like manga route 2, actually it's implied she doesn't do that because she simply doesn't want to. Uh, like because in manga route 2 she knows where her body is, but it's like it's really injured and she can't walk with it. So it's really implied that she just doesn't return to her body because she literally doesn't want to, and so she'd rather just stay as Enna. Yeah, Manguru 2 Enna is really different from regular Enna's in that she actually has a completely different wish that gives her the snake of opening eyes, and Enna in Manguru 2 is also really confusing. There's some stuff about her that I just don't really know the answers to. For example, like if you ask me how she dies, I'll be like I don't really know, but I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, if you're wondering why does Enna die in Manguru 2, it's I'm not sure. It seems too coincidental that she just happened to die in that exact same moment that she took Shintaro to her body. Uh, but it's like it's just really unknown. It's like hinted that's because of snake shenanigans, but like we don't know. Um, you asked if Enna could go into a mirror like Mary did. Mary didn't go into a mirror though. That's the thing. She appeared through a TV screen. So she Enna can do that. She could probably project herself as like a hologram because that's what Mary could do. But then again, Mary with combining eyes, she automatically uses the snake's legs. She can use the snake's legs in a stronger way than the others can. So it's possible that like Enna just didn't know how to do something like that. Yeah, the whole like the theory that the reason why Enna dies in Manga 2 is because she got closure and no longer had a wish. That was my theory at first, and honestly, that is my usual answer for why she dies in Manga 2. It's just that it doesn't exactly make sense because I guess it does because she no longer had any more wishes. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the conclusion I came with too. It's that like the fact that the wish that gave her opening eyes, she no longer had that wish. And so she had no more wishes for her snake. So like how Sayuri did at the NMCA, her snake started disappearing. But what it ended up doing was return to Mary. So that killed Enna. Yeah. That is like the main theory on how she dies, and that is the reason that I put in the Wikipedia, I believe. Yeah. It's just like when I was making this presentation, I was just like, it's really hard to explain that. Let me check the forum. Let's see if there's any more questions. Next question. So could Enna become an in-game avatar, for instance, taking over the FPS model to play herself? Uh, God, I sure hope she can. Doesn't that sound amazing? Uh, Honestly, we don't know, but why not? That just sounds fun. Like, if Jin said no, I would call him a killjoy, honestly, you know? Like, as a writer, why not? And it can just enter the Sims and play Sims with herself. Q. Does Shintaro feel like his dad went to get milk? No. He very much knows that his dad died trying to save Momo, and he does not blame Momo or nor his dad for it at all. Canonically in the manga, Shintaro simply is sad about his dad's death, but he cares more about Momo and her being like okay after their dad's death than too much to like basically despair over his dad's death or like being angry at his dad or anything. Yeah, that's what we know about Shintaro's relationship with his dad. He's just like he's definitely sad over his death, but I don't think he's like he sees him as like a abandoning dad or anything. I'm looking at the chat. So I see the question: if someone's wish ends up not being their wish anymore, they just die because the snake doesn't have anything to work with. Yes, no, yes and no, because the thing is that the snakes always can they always are fulfilling the specific wish for a member to still be alive. How to put it? If you have a snake and say that your wish is no longer valid for it, but you still want to be alive, most likely that snake will still fulfill that wish because it's performing as your replacement life. But it's implied that Anna just straight up kind of gave up at that point in the manga, like she just accepted her death, and so that's why she died. Yeah, but it's like it seems like it's possible, but also not because the thing is, and I think I put this in one of my slides as well. I put this little slide here about disappearing. It's implied that both Haruka and Shintaro snakes, aka Konohayaki, it's implied that they disappeared, but clearly they didn't, and they didn't go back to marry. So whatever happened to Haruka and Shintaro in terms of their snakes disappearing is different from what happened to Enna's snake in manga number 2. So it seems like Enna's case was rather special, but it seems like it is possible for anyone to just like, die if they no longer have any wishes. But I think her case is different specifically because her wish changed rather not that her wish changed, but she no longer had the wish that gave her her snake. So maybe that was it. Yeah. I see your question. Don't forget you can also ask the questions in the forum. But I'm just looking at the chat from time to time. This question: does Shintaro just forget everything from previous timelines when Yaki dies or disappears? Mm. I want to say no, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Jin just pulled that out and said like, "Yep, Shintaro's forgetting to remember." Because the thing is, that's actually a huge theme in Kagepro, like struggling to remember stuff. And like claiming that you'll remember and that you'll never forget, but forgetting anyway. That's heavily referenced in the lines of Summertime Records specifically, the very last lines of Summertime Records. So maybe, but honestly, I'm hoping not, because Shintaro, he's always like, I'm gonna remember everything, and then he promptly does it. So it's gonna be really sad if that happens again after Summertime Record, in my opinion. But yeah, honestly, for these questions, I'm just like, I'm not sure. We just don't know. Questions. Does Shintaro ever go to Momo's concerts? Probably. there are no there aren't any canon times she does. He does, I think, but we can assume that he does, especially online. So does Kido take over the Dan because she was forced into the position, or because she wanted to keep Iona's memory alive? She was never forced to become the leader of the Mekakushidan. The anime shows that it was Kano's suggestion for her to become its leader, and she liked the idea, so she took it. And because she wanted to be strong after Ayano's death, she went ahead and took on the position of leader and became the wonderful leader that we know now. So no, she was never forced. She decided to become the leader, the new leader, Mekukushidan, with Kano's suggestion and be with her own resolve and determination, and she passed with fucking flying colors. So yeah, I think it's really good for Keto that she decided to take on that position, but it was nothing that like it was entirely voluntary from her. Question: Does Shintaro ever suppress the snake in his edgy phase? Uh, no, because he's well. Thing is, Shintaro's technically always suppressing a snake because he doesn't remember the past roots all the time. However, in the anime route specifically, there is a time shown where he, is quote unquote in his edgy phase, wearing his black clothes, and he's talking to Yaki, who like is like, hey, by the way, you can use his memories to save everyone. He says, screw you, and he uh, uses the scissors. Now, there's a lot of debate whether or not the scene happens in the anime route or another route that's just being shown in the anime. But maybe you can count that time as yes, maybe. So yeah, maybe in Mecha City Actors episode 11. I or yeah, I think that's it, episode 11. But I don't know. A lot of the questions I'm being asked right now, it just seems like question: Do we ever know where Seto works 60 hours a week? I know that you guys got that from Danny's presentation. One of his canon jobs is like a flower shop, I believe, because that's shown in Lost Day Hour comic. But we just know that he just took on a lot of different part-time jobs. He says that in the novel route specifically, and he does a lot of physical labor specifically. That was like he deliberately chose jobs for physical labor so that he would get stronger, and he does. So good for him. Yeah, for you who's saying you thought that the scene was him going to the days to save everyone, I disagree about the whole Execution Taro's scene scenario in the anime. I've had a lot of debates with people about this. Uh, I sincerely do not believe that that's like Shintaro entering the days in the anime route. I sincerely believe that's just a Route XX being shown in Mekuxi actors. Um, but yeah. Let's see if there's any more questions because we're reaching 3:30, so we should really wrap up the stream soon. But thank you so much again for those that came in and watch this panel. If you ever want to if you ever want to review it, I will be sharing the recording of this with Dani so that it could be uploaded onto the YouTube channel uh and also if you guys are interested, sorry. If you guys are interested, I did include all the in this presentation itself. I also included all these common questions that are frequently asked in the series, and so I'm just going to scroll through them quickly right here, so that if you're looking through the VOD or the video, you can just pause and read through these questions if you want to. Yeah. Just a lot of questions about Sayadu, and a lot of questions about the days that I feel like are asked a lot, and a lot of questions about the snakes. But yeah, just pause through them if you're watching this video later, if you want to see, if you want to read through those answers. And again, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Yeah, it's been a whole 90 minutes already. I really appreciate those of you that came here to watch, and hope they enjoy the rest of your Dazecon. Yeah. And I just checked, and there are still questions being submitted to the forum, so let me just answer those as fast as I can. Does Ayano always jump off a building to enter the days? Yes, except Manga Route 2. So, what the fuck is the scene in Lost Time Memory where Sayada tries to shoot himself and Shintaro takes the bullet? That's exactly what it sounds like. It's a route. It's quote unquote Route 1. That's another route that's not part of the main 5 routes that I talked about earlier. Side is canon that sometimes Konoha can try to rebel against Sairu when Sairu is possessing him and try to kill himself to prevent Sairu from going on with his plans. He usually fails. So when in Lost Time Memory, Shintaro basically realized that was Konoha he was staring at, not Sayuru, tried to save him, took the bullet for him, died, and then Sayuru took over and killed everyone else. That's what happens in Lost Time Memory. Alright, now questions are over. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to end the stream now. Alright, thank you, and goodbye.